All right. One of Natalie Bollinger's favorite artists was Sia, SIA. There was a song by her that Natalie Bollinger thought was absolutely beautiful. The two people playing in the video were Maddie Ziegler, who was underage at the time, and Shia LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf. Whatever the fuck his name is. I did like it. I did. I like Sia's music. But then again, I also like Melanie Martinez's music. Did you know Melanie Martinez was in trouble for sexual assault against her partner? By partner, I mean, yeah, she didn't have a traditional relationship between a man and a woman. She sexually assaulted her girlfriend. Sia, she's making a movie that's a goddamn insult. You refuse to hear the truth from actual autistic people, but when it's entertainment, you eat it the fuck up. When it's an autistic person trying to tell their story, you shove them to the back of the goddamn bus and tell them to shut the fuck up. But when it's for entertainment, let's talk about blackface for a minute. If I'm making a movie about how black people are treated in America, and I am cast as a black man, and I paint myself black, then I'm a racist, right? That's insulting, right? But I'm not allowed to find this insulting? That I'm not worth listening to? But some girl who pretends is worth paying to see? You are paying for make believe. You are ignoring real life for make believe. There were a lot of people when the last Willy Wonka movie came out. It was called Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And they only had one person with dwarfism in the movie. And he is possibly the weirdest looking person with dwarfism I've ever seen. Am I making fun of his looks? No. I'm telling you, for a kid's movie, there was a lot of fucking kids who were scared of that guy just because of the way he looked. That's not saying the right or wrong of it. That's not saying that it's okay. That's just saying that that's the way it is. And a lot of people who have dwarfism wanted to protest because they weren't in the movie. That movie, that big Hollywood production, hired one person with dwarfism and basically just cloned them. A lot of times the gay community doesn't get fucking bent out of shape for that, but that's because it's flattery. I mean, for a lot of gay guys that I know, they're like, I know that that actor's not gay, but I've had a crush on him since I was 7 years old. And when I saw him kissing that dude on the fucking silver screen, I thought to myself, there is hope. And I'm thinking to myself, no, it's make believe. He didn't magically turn gay because of that movie. He's not a gay person just because he kissed somebody because the script said to do so. He was cast as a homosexual. You are in a different situation than I am, though, because you got a crush on that dude. You are trying to indulge the fantasy that you've had since you were a 7 year old. A lot of y'all say, well, you can't know if you're gay at 7. Well, this dude knew he was gay at 7. Still gay. He's still gay. You got no idea how many gay dudes have said, man, I wish Brad Pitt would kiss a dude on TV. Yeah, a lot of y'all women who throw yourselves at Johnny Depp and type things like, Johnny Depp could rape me any day. There are a lot of men out there who are exactly the same way with Johnny Depp. If Johnny Depp was in trouble for rape, some of these people would try to kill the person that he raped because they're in love with this person they've never met so much. And I'm not talking about just the gay ones. Amanda Payne and her mother are that psycho about Johnny Depp. No joke. You know, it's funny. I don't even remember what this video is supposed to be about. I suppose I could open up another tab, press Y, automatically brings up YouTube. And then at the very top here, it usually shows me whatever video I'm live streaming, and it has the title underneath. It's not looking at like it here, but I can go to, it says your channel. I click on that. It says Sia's trash movie and its insulting impact. Right there. If I lose track of what the video is about, because there is so much of this stuff that ties in together, this is what I do to remember, try to bring myself back on topic. Is Sia a bad person for making this movie? No. And yes. It's kind of a matter of opinion, but it's also highly a matter of impact. Will this movie get us heard? Is it an awareness thing or is it a blackface thing? For me, having Tourette syndrome, and then I see actors that don't have Tourette syndrome playing a person with Tourette syndrome, it doesn't look, to somebody who has Tourette syndrome, these actors don't come across as someone who has Tourette syndrome. They come across as someone who is making fun of someone with Tourette syndrome. What do they say about that? The most sincerest form of flattery? But then when you cast somebody for a part where they have to play like they have Tourette syndrome, you make them so that they curse. They curse, they curse, they curse. When you cast somebody as autistic, you either cast them as mentally retarded, like with Maddie Ziegler, or you cast them as Dennis Hoffman. Some of us are not that bad. You pretend that we don't have those disabilities because we are not that bad. That hurts us because we're at the same risk as those people. And you want to talk about nonverbal, that's immodal. That's the term that we use. You say normal, we say neurotypical. You say weirdo or freak, we say neurodiverse. We don't use the fact that somebody is not neurotypical as an excuse to victimize them or to pretend that they weren't victimized when they come to us for help, which you do. You normal people don't want anybody in your society that you don't consider your type of normal. Let me show you something here. This has got nothing to do with Sia, and it's got everything to do with me. Everybody loves talking about themselves, don't they? These were ordered from China. Some of you machinists can identify these things immediately. Some of the rest of you might be clueless. What are those? Those are tungsten carbide bits. They're pretty important for like end milling and such. That's where you're trying to drill a hole that's an odd shape. Let's say you're trying to drill a hole, but you need it to be a rectangle, and you need it to go down 3¼ inches in a 4-inch thing. Now you can't go 4 inches because if you go 4 inches, you're going to drill through it. Now you want it to be flat on the bottom. So what you do is you have what's called a mill. And on a mill, there's a little table. And it allows this thing right here that's sitting on this table to move side to side or front to back. And there's a little wheel on the side that you can turn, well, on the older ones anyway, to move it left and right. Then there's one on the front that you can use to move it towards you or away from you. And one of these tungsten carbide bits, just like my finger here, coming down. It's spinning and it starts drilling the hole. And then you start turning that wheel on the right hand side, and this moves along and it drills out just a little bit of it at a time. And then you adjust the one in the front so that it moves, the back and forward ways. And then you recrank that wheel that you started off with in the opposite direction so you can bring this end mill back this direction. And then you take this one that's in front of you that you used the second time and you do it in reverse. And then you set it just a little bit deeper and you continue going all the way around. Now let's say that your end mills are only this wide and you need to cut something that's this wide. What you'll actually do is you'll go this way and then a tiny bit this way, and then you'll go across this way and then a tiny bit this way and then across this way. And basically what you're trying to do is basically you're grinding out everything that's in there so that you have a nice smooth finish, a nice even bottom. Wood really gets caught up in these things, and plastic generally tends to get caught up in them too. But when it comes to some specialty crafting or specialty carving or specialty grinding, if you're making an artistic piece, you're not going to necessarily mold the whole piece of steel. You might take a few pieces of steel and weld them together as a framework, and then you start adding material on top of that, similar to making a human face out of clay. You start off with a wire framework, and you start putting clay onto that wire framework instead of a solid block. And then you start adding material, and you add material until you have a little bit more than you need, and then you just shave off a little bit. These are for the shaving off a little bit. When you are welding two pieces together, it's going to form kind of a bump. It's going to have some slag on there. You're going to want to knock off the slag, and you're going to want to grind it out. This is one of my special interests. Another special interest that I have is getting autistic people heard. A lot of people make the excuse of, oh, well, we can't really get an autistic person to help us because, they're all retarded. You really think that all autistic people are like Dennis or Dustin Hoffman, or, well, what Maddie Ziegler is trying to portray? Dustin Hoffman did not realistically portray somebody with autism. He was acting for entertainment, for ratings. It doesn't matter that you get the wrong fucking idea from that movie, and you put a lot more stock into fiction than it really should have. I want you to know that that is entirely your fault. It is not your fault that Hollywood paints it that way, but it is your fault for believing it rather than looking into it. I mean, why does every person on TV who's got Tourette's syndrome have to go, fuck, 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 cunt, 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 cunt? A lot of people, they wanted to use my disabilities to try to defend me when it comes to Tourette's syndrome. They say, he only cusses because he has Tourette's syndrome. Like fucking hell I do. That cursing thing. Only 30% of Tourette's syndrome cases have verbal tics. And of those, only 5% of those people with verbal tics have the one where they curse. Most verbal tics sound like this. Actually, my voice is hoarse. I can't even do it. I sound like one of the village people on Minecraft. If Sia is trying to bring awareness, that's good. We need to bring awareness to the fact that it's not just the people that you assume need to be wearing a football helmet and bashing their head against the wall. The way that they drive us crazy is through seclusion. We're not allowed to be a part of your society. We're not allowed to do the things that you're allowed to do. We're not pretty like you. We're not normal or neurotypical. And that is excuse enough for you to victimize us, for you to bully us for our entire lives, for you to steal from us and pretend that we deserve it. When you're called mentally ill, all your predators have to do is say, oh no, he just got the wrong idea. Your predators will try to fucking chum up with you after they done something stupid. Like Josh, after he assaulted me in his yard over there, he did try to chum up with me just a little bit. Don't chum up with me after that. I'm gone. I am already gone. Like most of you women who say that If a man beats you, you're gone, and then you're only gone for 2 weeks, and you go back and he beats you again. Yeah, no, it's not like that. I'm not going to go back and ask Josh for help. The next time I see Josh, he's going to have to answer for the things that he did. The next time that I see Amy, she's going to have to answer for the things that she did. If they're intelligent, they won't come back to Chapel, Nebraska. Just because I'm not willing to kill people doesn't mean I'm not willing to defend myself. But then again, we don't have any representation. We didn't have an autistic person play Rain Man. We don't have an autistic person playing in this movie either. Sia's movie. And when you guys talk about autism or focus on autism, you focus on the low functioning autistic people. And you say, well, it's because they don't have a voice. High functioning autistic people don't have a voice either. We can speak and we are still not heard. But by all means, continue blackfacing the autistic community. By all means, be a bunch of insensitive jackasses and pretend like we're snowflakes because we don't like it happening to us. You don't have to cast a nonverbal autistic person in that role. Matter of fact, to cast an autistic person who is immodal in that role is actually cruelty. It's mean. But it's just as mean to all of us to misrepresent. After Natalie died, I wanted to appeal to Sia. I typed a few times to try to get her to reach out to Alicia Bollinger and let her know that she was loved. I let her know that that song was one of her favorites. One of Natalie's favorites. That song by Sia. Elastic Heart. You know, growing up in the hell that I grew up in, it makes people hard. Things that are hard don't stretch. They're not elastic. They just break. They shatter into a million pieces. Sure, it's harder to move something that's solid as a rock. It's hard to deform it. But once you've done so, the damage is permanent. If I love you, I love you. Even if you stab me in the back. Even if you lie about me and people are literally trying to kill me because you lied. If I love you, I love you. That's not an in-love thing, stupid. If I tell you I love you, it's not because I want your vagina. Especially since most of the people I say I love you to are men. I tell Brandon Ratner that I love him. I tell Brandon Jeffson that I love him. I tell Ventus I love him. And if my brother gave a shit enough to pretend I was a human being, I'd tell him I love him too. But he doesn't pretend I'm a human being. He ignores me and ignores the abuse against me just like everyone else. Of course, why wouldn't he? He's doing so for the same reasons that Natalie and Alicia did. for the same reason that my mom and dad did. I don't mean shit to them compared to their drugs. If they have to victimize me to get their drugs, they have no problems with that. If they have to play the sympathy card to get some free drugs out of you at my expense, they'll fucking do that. After this, I gotta make a video to address the Hells Angels. We'll see if they respond. They should. And what's that in response to? Well, there's a friend of mine named Jetty Ray Morales, and she's being picked on by my brother. Jetty Ray Morales is, how do I say this without insulting you? It's alternate lifestyle. Jetty was born a man. Jetty is a Native American, has close ties to the reservation up there in Montana, the Crow Reservation. Jetty's favorite uncle's from there. Eric, leave Jetty alone. Seriously. I know you think it's funny, but it's not. It's bullying. I know because I've dealt with it my whole life. It's not funny. It's not entertaining to us. So, Rabbit, knock it the fuck off. So, Jetty sent me a friend request, and there's a lot of people who pretended to be friends of mine, made fake accounts pretending to be my friends, and then fucking came in and stirred up the mud. And they got away with it because the cops didn't want to fucking do a goddamn thing. So let's see what Jetty had to say. I'll show you these, of course. Jetty's new profile is called Davina Sky. It says, "You're not friends on Facebook, two mutual friends." You know what's funny? Jetty sent me a friend request, and I accepted it just a few hours ago. But because she sent me that friend's request, I typed, "Hello, Jetty." Alright, please fucking zoom in. It just shows a red or a blue fucking dot there. Maybe if I hold it at an angle. See, "Hello, Jetty." And Jetty replies, "Tell Rabbit to leave me alone." And then it says, "You can now message and call each other and see info like active status and when you've seen messages." Jetty typed, "I'm HA protected. Birthing chapter, Kaiser." Do you know what HA stands for? That's Hell's Angels. So Jetty is saying that she wants my older brother to quit picking on her or she's going to go to the Hell's Angels because she's protected by Hell's Angels. Is that true? Probably not, but I suppose there's a possibility, and I am going to look into it because that's the right thing to do. Don't fuck with my family, bitch. But this is what I typed back to Jetty. Now, I suppose I should show this part first. Uh, Fucking goddamn it. There's got to be a way to hold it so you can read it. But I replied, "Well, Eric doesn't talk to me. He blocked me. I'd love to give him your message, especially since you have always been good to me, but I don't have a way to reach him. I'm not worried about the Hells Angels, and I doubt Rabbit will be. But if anything happens to Eric, there isn't a person alive who won't feel my wrath. Be safe, Jetty. You are loved. Just because Jetty is having issues with my brother doesn't mean I don't love her. And just because my brother is a fucking strung out goddamn junkie bully doesn't mean I don't love him. Well, that's weird. It says that we're not friends on Facebook, but on Jetty's profile picture, it says that we are. How odd is that? Oh, here's some other good friends of mine. All right. The big, tall Native American, that's Jetty. The black man, that's Canada. I'll give you one guess as to where Canada's from. Jetty's not a little on the strange side. She's a lot on the strange side. And that's one of the things I like best about her. The night that I met her was the night that I met a different Tamara. Not the Tamara that I'm always talking about, who was my good caseworker. This is a Tamara who is an alcoholic down on Pearl Street. And y'all, when I tell you those stories about Crystal Beauchamp, how I rescued her while she was drunk, she was, you know, she's got dudes trying to fucking shove her into a vehicle and have sex with her because they think they can get away with it because she is that drunk. Well, it was the same thing with Tamara. Tamara was really that fucking drunk. And me and Jetty spent the whole night protecting Tamara. Why? Because there were dudes on multiple occasions. Tamara, mind you, was really, really pretty. Like, really, really pretty. So, Crystal Beauchamp, not so much. I mean, she was pretty with a painted face. If that makes sense. She wasn't ugly, but she's pretty much a plain Jane without 40 pounds of makeup on. But Tamara, yeah, she didn't wear makeup. She had sex with quite a few homeless people. That's how she showed them that she was grateful for them or thankful. A lot of women think that. They think that the way that you're supposed to thank a man is with sex. You don't need to thank somebody with sex. A thank you should be good enough. If somebody isn't helping you out of the kindness of their heart, if they got expectations of that sort of shit out of you, you're in a predatory situation. And you're not the predator, so it ain't gonna end well for you. I asked these witnesses to come forward because there was no possible way that I could jump through all of this shit in the short amount of time that I had at the very beginning in 2018. I need you to come forward. When people were assholes to me about it, you know what? Fine. If I have to take the time to show the truth for you, then I will. You could help me by simply telling the truth. But no, you want to make me spend all that time to dig for it. And if I got to spend all that time to dig for it, I'm posting it up for God and everybody to see. You claimed that you cared, but you didn't want to do anything to stop the abuse. You wanted to claim that you were, but for months and months and months, I'm being abused while waiting on you to keep your fucking word. These people are harming me over a narrative that you know to be untrue, and you are twiddling your goddamn thumbs and then pretending like I'm a bad person when I am pissed off after 7 months of your fucking bullshit while I am being abused physically, emotionally, and financially that entire goddamn time. Miss Peaches treated me like shit because Tabby told her that I didn't pay rent, I didn't contribute to the household, and I didn't clean. And Miss Peaches used that as an excuse to treat me like shit. Meanwhile, I had already recorded Tabby admitting that I did pay rent. I did contribute to the household. I did contribute food. I did clean. I also put up with a lot of abuse. Joshua Eichelberger may not have been specifically abusive to me, but it doesn't matter. If Joshua Eichelberger is screaming at the top of his lungs at fucking 9 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock in the morning at two 3-year-old girls, calling them cunts at the top of his lungs, no, that is not going to be a safe environment for me. I am going to be on pins and needles, walking on eggshells, fucking scared shitless. You guys pretend I'm a bad person for yelling, but I'm yelling about the right shit. Joshua Eichelberger would come home from being drunk, and we've already cleaned the house, and there are one or two things that are on the floor, and we've just spent as a family, and no, I'm not blood related to any of these people, but as a household, I should say, we came together and cleaned up one hell of a mess. And this guy comes home and there's just a couple of things there, and he didn't help clean up any of it. And he starts picking up stuff and throwing it and tossing it and screaming and fucking shouting about how he's got to do every goddamn thing around here. No, Josh, you don't do nothing but get drunk, mooch off of others, and make our fucking lives miserable. Josh, you're not even supposed to fucking be there. And that's the fucked up part about Tabby having him at the house. He had a history of abusing his kids. So there was a protection order in place that he wasn't supposed to be there. But Tabby, between her children's safety and not wanting to be alone, her children's safety didn't mean shit. Rose M. Kelly knows what that's like. Rose M. Kelly didn't give a shit about her twin daughters. She let these abusive men back into her house with protection orders. She chose those abusive men over her own daughters. How am I supposed to get any work done when I need help to do these things? I need resources to do these things. And when I try to get help, it costs me those things. Shannon Alvarado talked a big fucking game about how she was going to help me, and if I was there, if I was there, if I was there. And when I got there, she was too busy being an alcoholic to keep her goddamn word. There should be an easier way for people who are autistic to be heard. If the only way that we are going to be heard is vicariously through entertainment, am I just entertainment to you? Please stop blackfacing the disabled. Please. Please stop being racist against the disabled. Please. Instead of people who are not disabled speaking for the disabled, you need to listen to the disabled. Instead of harming people because you are fucking paranoid, because you hate weirdos and creeps and freaks and weirdos. And weirdos and weirdos and weirdos. And I'm going to keep on pushing that one right there. I'm proud of being a weirdo. You know what weirdo means to me? Weirdo doesn't mean some sicko out there trying to fuck kids. Weirdo to me is a badge of fucking honor. Just like the title Dirtbag. That is a badge of fucking honor for me. Now, a lot of people, they want to post up the storybook rendition of what autism is. Here's a video. Sorry. Turn that down. I'm just trying to get through the ad so I can click on the video. This guy has Asperger's, like me. He has a channel called The Aspie World. You realize that people with Asperger's aren't the football helmet wearing idiots that belong in a plastic or rubber room that you think we are. We're gonna type up another one. This is one of my favorites. Her name is Anna. I gotta use this keyboard because that one's busted. Her name is Anna Moomin. ANNAMOOMIN. I'm gonna tell you something about Anna Moomin. She's pretty. She is a lot prettier than I am. She also has a support network there in person. And even with a fully intact support network, she still encounters a lot of the issues I do. The last one from her was 2 months ago, called Why We Need Autism Acceptance. Her computer broke, and tried to have a fundraiser to help get her a new computer so that she could speak for us again. The reason that we need her to speak for us, it's not that she's any more eloquent than the rest of us, it's because she's pretty and you'll listen to her because she's pretty. Just like you listen to Natalie because she's pretty. But the difference is Natalie isn't autistic. Actually, I gotta take that back. I really do think that Natalie had Asperger's. We're not allowed to show emotion. He'll punish us for it. But you're allowed to have those emotions. We're not allowed to show fear, but you're allowed to be angry at us over shit that's not our fault. You're allowed to be angry and we're not. But Anna Moomin, she doesn't have the issues that I have. I have a penis, that's strike one. I'm not physically attractive, that's strike two. I don't have a support network, that's strike three. You won't listen to me, but you might listen to Anna. I wish that people could get a hold of Anna Moomin. She's got technical difficulties with the computer, same as me. Not all people with autism are Rain Man. Not all people with autism are computer geniuses. We have to learn this shit same as you. My special interest wasn't computers. If it had been, I'd be able to do all these things, but that wasn't my special interest. When I had time where I could actually sit down and not be stressed, which is what needs to be done for me to learn, I was busy learning the things that were relevant to my life at that point in time. If I'd have known that Natalie Bollinger was going to pull all the shit that she did, I might have done some things differently. Most things I wouldn't have, though. Most things I'd have done exactly how I did them. Because there weren't other choices. You guys keep telling me, oh, well, that's bullshit. There are plenty of choices. Like what? And then you start typing shit as if I never tried those things. I'm like, hey, the things that you're telling me, this website or this group that you're telling me to get a hold of that is supposed to help me with these things. I have the people who work there recorded on this YouTube already. They're already on the YouTube. You're making suggestions for somebody who's already on my YouTube. And by their own words, they don't do what it is that you're telling me that they're supposed to. The people that the police in this town told that I needed to talk to, I talked to them. They told me it's not their job. They told me I needed to call this different place that I called, and they tell me it's not their job. Meanwhile, it is ignorance of autism that I am being abused over. And nobody gives a shit because I'm not a pretty girl. Well, not enough to get actively involved. We owe it to all females in the United States to protect them. It's how we're taught. Whether she is right or wrong is fucking arbitrary. If a woman decides that she's going to beat on you in public, if you just take it, you got to deal with a bunch of people treating you like you're a bitch. You're a bitch, dude. You got your ass kicked by a girl. Of course, if she's beating on you in public and you push her away, you're also the bad guy, aren't you? Of course you are. It's socially acceptable for her to beat on you in public for 30 minutes. It is not socially acceptable for you to do anything to defend yourself. You can't even lift your arms. If you lift your arms and say, please stop, stop, I have my hands up, then she can use that to say, well, he brought up his hands like he was going to hit me. No, I'm being assaulted. I'm doing the same thing that I would do as if I was afraid of the cops fucking shooting me. My hands are in the air. My hands are in the air. I don't have any weapons. You can see clearly I have no weapons. My hands are in the air. Black Lives Matters has all these chants. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I couldn't breathe either. Police repeatedly in all of these jails, every single one of these jails, I was abused by the officers there. Every one of them. I have the words of witnesses from every one of them. I can still prove that those officers and those police did those things, those illegal things. See, it's not illegal for you to do your job. It is illegal for you to break the law, even if you are manipulating the law in order to justify it or make it magically okay. You're committing a felony. You are not using the law as it was intended. You are abusing your power, and you are abusing the trust that we, the public, are supposed to give you. If you heard the conversations between myself and those officers the day that Officer Waylon Lolotai assaulted me, you would realize quick, fast, and in a goddamn hurry that I was telling the truth. You'd realize quick, fast, and in a hurry that those officers lied to me on multiple occasions and lost my trust before we even got to the hospital. They were supposed to be taking me somewhere safe where I could write a report about the abuse that I was enduring, but they didn't care about that. They already knew that some of the people who were abusing me were cops. They already knew that police officers in Boulder County had repeatedly separated me from people who were trying to help. And they had repeatedly harassed me while I was trying to tell them about the people who were assaulting me over the Natalie situation. Anna Moomin, this one's called Autism and Sexuality. We'll post this one up over here in the live chat too. This is Anna Moomin. She's prettier than I am, so you might listen. These are two people who have autism. Not autism like you guys think of autism. You think of autism as mental retardation. No, we're all smarter than you. That autistic girl who craps her pants and can't speak, communicate with you, is smarter than you. It is her intelligence that creates those issues that make her so that she craps her pants and that she can't speak. There's a lot more going on in her head than you're capable of understanding. Shannon Alvarado, her daughter's not retarded. She's low functioning autistic, but she's not retarded. She's just not smart in the ways that you expect. Because she can't speak eloquently, you assume that she's fucking stupid. And then there's the people, hey, you don't look autistic. What are autistic people supposed to look like? Pinheads? And no, pinheads, that's not a making fun of people term. That's the actual term for people who have pinheads. That's where your skull comes up to a point. A lot of time, people who have pinheads will have a little bit of hair on top, not much. Maybe I'll look it up actually. Now, one of the things they're going to show us is the horror movie Hellraiser with the pinhead there. Pinhead disease. This one it shows it differently. It says normal head size, abnormally small head, microcephaly, a condition in which a baby's head is significantly smaller than expected, often due to abnormal brain development. Causes of microcephaly include infections, malnutrition, or exposure to toxins. I was hoping that they would have a picture of some people with pinhead disease. Here's one. Schlitzie the Pinhead was one of the most famous circus sideshow acts ever. His unusual appearance attracted swarms of audiences, but his life was incredibly, well, is that what you expect somebody with autism to look like? Because the way you talk about autism, that really seems to be what you expect from us. See, unlike Down syndrome, there are no visual markers. Unlike someone who is quadriplegic, there's no physical markers. I'm going to show you people with Down syndrome. Why is that? Because if somebody's got Down syndrome and they don't look like they have Down syndrome, they probably don't have Down syndrome. Down syndrome is from a genetic chromosome that creates this specific look. Now, prior to being called mental retardation, which is what it was called before it was called developmental disabilities, well, before all of that, they called them mongoloids. What does mongoloid mean, and why did they use it as a term for these folks? Well, because Mongolians and people from the Asiatic steppes have a very specific look about them. They have a little bit chubbier cheeks than most people, and they have a very specific eye shape. Now, if you look at Japanese cartoons where they show Japanese people and then they show Westerners, Westerners are drawn with huge eyes. If you can't tell the difference between an Asian and a Caucasian, you're probably blind. If you can't tell that somebody with Down syndrome has Down syndrome, you're probably blind. Down syndrome does have physical markers, a very specific shape to the eyes, a very specific shape to the smile, a very specific shape to the face. This one is from the CDC, Center for Disease Control. It says data and statistics on Down syndrome. That's somebody with Down syndrome. The most famous person that I can think of with Down syndrome, there's a show back there in the 90s called My So-Called Life. Or was it Life Goes On? I think it was Life Goes On that had Corky in it, and My So-Called Life was the one with Claire Danes. I had a really big crush on her. Not the kid in the picture, but a big crush on Claire Danes. With Down syndrome, there is a specific look. I type Down syndrome in images, and that's what it shows. Let's type Asperger's syndrome. Well, now we're not seeing a whole bunch of pictures of kids with the same genetic markers. Instead of it being a bunch of pictures of people that have those genetic markers, this is what we get. A bunch of charts. It's because there is no look to Asperger's. You gotta look at our mannerisms. And it sucks when stimming is treated as if it is a drug addiction, as if you are stimming because you are strung out on something. If you leave your kid stimming for 5 minutes to go into the grocery store, your kid might be dead by the time you get back. Not because some stranger will kill them, but because some cop will. Over half of those killed by police last year were disabled. Over half. And of those disabled people, the ones who were murdered by police the most are people with autism. You guys are assholes to us. You neurotypicals will never allow us to be a part of your society. You won't stop victimizing us for being different or expecting us to be like you. Adolf Hitler had the same fucking idea, you son of a bitch. Heinrich Himmler had the same idea, you son of a bitch. I don't like your idea. I don't like your idea that everybody should be like you. Everybody should look like you. Everybody should think like you. Everybody should hate the people that you hate. Everybody should love the people that you love. And everybody should worship your fucking imaginary goddamn friend. Instead of listening to a bunch of asshats who don't know the first goddamn thing about living with it, maybe you ought to listen to some autistic people who aren't immodal. If they can't speak, you can tell your narrative however you want. You can spin off this person as if they were anything at all. You can literally make an autistic person whatever fantasy that you want to be creating. You're not autistic. You got no goddamn clue. Let's talk about doctors for a second. Jeff, he's in a wheelchair. And doctors can tell him all up and down everything about the spinal area where he's got the pinch. They can tell him the scientific name of the bubble that's grown there that prevents him from walking. They can tell you all sorts about the physiological changes that happen, about the atrophying, and about how in the future you're probably going to have surgeries to move some of your muscles because they're going to atrophy so much, you're going to need padding or you're going to end up with bed sores just from sitting in your fucking wheelchair. Doctors can tell you all of that, but unless that doctor is in a wheelchair, they can't tell you what it's like to be in a wheelchair. They have no right or place to be speaking for people in wheelchairs or saying what those people in wheelchairs are or are not capable of doing from that wheelchair. You knowing the physiological nature of it doesn't give you an understanding of the psychological nature of having to live with it. As a result, the best person for helping out an autistic person isn't a doctor, it's an autistic person. Nobody else is going to care enough to listen. You see, BLM, they stick together for black folks. But autistic folks aren't allowed to do that. For many of us, we are so tightly controlled over your goddamn assumptions. How can we possibly be to blame for all this shit that you blame us on? I haven't seen Sia's movie, and I'm not gonna go pay to watch it in theaters. If it's on TV, I'll probably change the channel. If it's a good movie and it is realistically portrayed, it's gonna be traumatic for me to watch. And if it's a bunch of fucking rhetoric and bullshit and fucking stereotypes, I'm gonna be pissed. So yeah, I'm probably not gonna watch the goddamn movie. Let me tell you about a movie with Jamie Foxx called The Soloist. He plays a homeless dude with severe PTSD. And through the entire movie, there's this guy who wants to help him, but he's not got any fucking clue about what he's jumping into. This man has no clue that the things that he thinks are going to help are traumatic for this man. It was played by Jamie Foxx. Jamie Curtis wanted to watch that movie so bad. And I was able to make it through about 20 to 30 minutes of the movie before I had a severe panic attack and had to fight off a meltdown. The reason for that is because it was too real for me. Jamie Foxx did a great goddamn job. You'd almost think that he lived it. You'd almost think that Jamie Foxx has been homeless. You'd almost think that he was autistic with a buttload of trauma. To this day, I can't watch that movie. I can't finish it. It's traumatic. Just knowing that it exists hurts me. I know that it wasn't made as an insult, and that's not why it hurts me. It hurts me because it is such a realistic portrayal of how we are victimized because of your assumptions. A lot of times you think you're doing the right thing, but you're not. And we try to explain that to you. Hey, I'm overwhelmed. Please don't bring 20 people to my squat. Please don't tell the cops where I'm at. You think that if you tell the cops where I'm sleeping because I'm an endangered adult, that you're doing the right thing and those cops are going to help me. No, they're not. they're going to treat it like anybody who calls it in and says, hey, there's a homeless person in my neighborhood, I want him gone. That's how the cops are going to interpret it. And in that movie, you get to see that. There's a movie called One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It's a very fantasy portrayal, but there's a lot of stuff in it that is very realistic. The head charge nurse, the drugs, how mean the staff really are when they get sick of that job. Oh, yeah. I don't hate Sia. I just wish that instead of my disabilities being entertainment for you, that maybe you might stop, pretend I'm a human being, and listen to me instead of listening to people who think they know me, or think that they know autism, or think that they can shove us all into the same goddamn basket. If your dad raped you and then ended up homeless, I'm not going to be fine with you taking it out on all homeless people. Yes, I get that you were victimized by your dad, but I'm not going to let you harm innocent people over it. I'm not going to let you harm homeless people because your daddy raped you. I'm not going to let you harm disabled people because you were assaulted by a fucking cop. And just because many of these people hate me over the slander doesn't mean that I'm ever going to stop fighting for their rights. Some of these people who were threatening to kill me when Natalie died, they're in some pretty fucked up situations right now. There's a couple of them that I expect to die within the next few months. When you do evil shit like that and karma comes and bites you in the ass and gives you an aggressive cancer, I mean, I know that really that's something that a lot of y'all would call karma. This person probably has it coming for what they did to me, right? One of those dudes, he's got a very aggressive, and I do know him in real life. We were pretty goddamn good friends until Natalie died. He did some pretty evil shit, and now he's gonna fucking die, and there ain't a goddamn thing the doctors can do. He wants to live. I'd love to trade places with him. I'd love to trade places with Natalie. I'd love to trade places with Janine. I'd love to trade places with Anna Hunka. A lot of people are like, you got survivor's remorse. No, I don't. I'm not sad that I'm still alive. I'm angry that I'm still alive. I am disappointed that I am still alive. I don't want to be victimized anymore, and I don't want any more of your pretty fucking words. When I tell you that I need help, and I tell you specifically, hey, I need somebody to teach me how to do these things so I can defend myself, and you tell me a bird is in the hand is worth two in the bush. That's fucking stupid. That's not advice. That doesn't help me get a lawyer. That doesn't help me defend myself. That doesn't get me basic human rights. See, the basic human rights that were set forth by the Geneva Convention do not apply to the homeless or the disabled here in the United States. According to the Geneva Convention, the United States has committed multiple decades of war crimes against the most at risk of our society. According to the agreements made by the Geneva Convention, our allies should already be at war with us. Well, not with us, but rather with our government and any idiot stupid enough to pick up a rifle for this Nazi regime. It doesn't matter who's fucking president. The president isn't going to do anything to change the goddamn laws unless you put a lot of pressure on the son of a bitch. And even then, he cannot change the laws on his own. We've gotten to see during the Trump administration that all of these things that all of these politicians that were president wanted to walk on eggshells for, they didn't have to walk on those eggshells. Donald Trump is proof of that. They could have been just as uncouth that whole time. It doesn't matter who's president when Congress is a goddamn rat's nest. It doesn't matter who is in charge of 160 million poor people and an additional 180,000 middle class. Although if you look at the statistics now, they're a lot different than they used to be, aren't they? All this COVID shit. 30% of the population without a job. When was the last time that happened? 1929. That's the last time it happened. 1929. Just because I don't feel that I have the ability to watch the movie doesn't mean that there is zero possibility that it could do some good rather than harm. And I hope for the best. I hope that it helps to raise awareness. But those of us who are autistic and intelligent, we fall through the cracks even more. We have no representation. We have nobody to actually defend us. Just because we have the ability to speak doesn't mean that we're heard. Those of us who can speak, those of us who are high functioning autistic people, when people find out that we're autistic, they either pretend that we can't be because we're not the retards they expected, Or they treat you like you're one of the retards that they expected. You don't have any rights. Nobody wants to listen to you. You're not neurotypical. Therefore, this society doesn't want to allow you any part. All they want for you or from you is for you to slave away for the rest of your life miserably for fucking scraps. While these people go out and spend their lives getting drunk, treating each other like shit, having unprotected sex, and then blaming you. Please don't blackface the autistic community anymore. Please listen to the autistic people themselves. Stop listening to these organizations that are trying to take your money for a cure for something that there is no cure for. And for people like me, you don't need to be trying to cure me of anything but your cruelty and your bad assumptions. My brain is superior to yours in every single way. The fact that I have been through a more adverse condition than nearly all of you are even capable of wrapping your heads around is proof of that. Most of y'all would have killed yourselves already. Natalie didn't want to live. After all them years of her family not loving her and her jumping through all of those hoops to try to make them happy. And no matter what, it wasn't good enough, so she tried to drown it out with heroin and meth and alcohol. She tried to curb her pain by having sex with bad men. Evil men. Men who were strung out on drugs. Men like her father. Imagine that. Natalie dating men like her father. You know, she kept on telling me she thought she was in love with me. I don't want to fucking hear that. I know your ex-boyfriend. I'm not like that. And that's a lot of the reason that Natalie loved me so much is that I wasn't one of those people who, when her family wanted her to do illegal and immoral things to make them happy at my expense, she did them. And it's okay. You replace the term or the words Asperger's syndrome. You replace them with mentally ill. And magically, it's okay to do these things to me. Listen to Anna Moomin. She didn't have to go through being treated like she was a murderer or a rapist or a child molester. And she still has meltdowns. She's pretty. She has a support network. She lives in Great Britain with universal health care. And she still has to deal with the same issues with neurodiversity that I do. Same assumptions that I do. She has to deal with people saying, well, you don't look autistic. What do you expect an autistic person to look like?